Hi, welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of building the Hangar 9 Carbon Cub. Today we're going to put the elevator on, the rudder, the tail wheel and put the servos in for the two. So let's get cracking. Remove the elevator halves from the horizontal stabilizer. Slide the horizontal stabilizer into position. It's best not to push it in, but to pull it to prevent any kind of damage. Center the horizontal stabilizer as much as possible and measure both sides to ensure that they're equal. Then measure from the wing to the trailing edge corner of the horizontal stabilizer on both sides to ensure that the angle on the trailing edge is equal as well. Take a pen to draw a line on both sides of the fuselage. Take the horizontal stabilizer out and use a sharp knife to just cut through the film. We need to remove the film from top and bottom of the horizontal stabilizer to apply the epoxy glue when we put the stabilizer back into position. Place the elevator connecting rod into the slot. Slide in the horizontal stabilizer, pull it back in and just stop before the exposed wood. Prepare some 5-minute epoxy and apply it to the exposed wood area on the horizontal stabilizer. You might wonder why I'm not taking the wings off, but that's because once we slide the horizontal stabilizer back in place, we need to measure the distances again on both sides of the fuselage and the distance to the wing. Pull the horizontal stabilizer in position and just stop before the film on the other side. As I mentioned, you have to measure the distances again. Take a 2mm drill and drill a hole in the center of each hinge slot in the horizontal stabilizer and the vertical stabilizer, and do the same for the elevator and rudder. Prepare the hinges with a pin in the middle and position them in the elevator halves. Slide the elevator halves in position on the horizontal stabilizer and check if the alignment is still correct. You may have to swap the left side and the right side. Prepare some 5-minute epoxy and put it into the hole from the elevator connecting rod. Use some thin CA superglue to glue the hinges. The wings can come off, and now we can glue the rudder and the bottom of the elevator halves. Position the steering tiller on the bottom of the rudder and then mark with a pen the locations for the screws. Use a 2mm drill bit to pre-drill the holes for the screws. Add a drop of super glue in each of the holes, then add the tiller arm on the bottom of the rudder using the two M3x10 self-tapping screws. Add a drop of Loctite in each of the holes of the wheel bracket. Then add the bracing bracket in the notch. On top of that, you place the wheel bracket. Secure it all with two M3x20 socket head screws. Not shown in this video is where I add the springs for the tail wheel. I had pre-bent all the fittings to about a 45-degree angle. These are the little plates with two holes in it. Then you add the fittings on both sides of the stabilizer, the horizontal and the vertical, and use a M3x12 screw and an M3 nut to secure it. Make sure that you also use some Loctite. For this next section, we need to prepare 4 bracing wires. You need a cable end and a clevis, and put those two together. Then you need a cable and a sleeve. Thread the cable through the sleeve, then through the cable end, and then back into the sleeve. Then take a cable, add the clevis to one side of the fitting, and add another sleeve on the other side of the cable. Thread the cable through another fitting and back into the sleeve. Then you compress the sleeve with a plier. Repeat the same process for the bracing wires at the underside of the horizontal stabilizer. Prepare some 5-minute epoxy glue and glue in the control horn for the elevator and the rudder. Make sure that you use the taller of the control horns for the elevator and the shorter one for the rudder. Open the servo hatch at the bottom of the fuselage. Install 2 servos for the rudder and the elevator, and make sure that the wires are facing forward towards the cabin. Find the shorter one of the 2 push rods. That is the one for the elevator. Slide it in through the cabin and make sure that it exits the backside of the fuselage closest to the control horn for the elevator. Repeat the same process for the rudder with the longer push rod. Enlarge the holes of the servo arm with the 2 mm drill bit. This allows the Z-bend to easily pass through. Connect the servos to your receiver and use your radio to center the arms for the elevator and the rudder. With the servo arm centered, you can then add an M2 nut and a clevis to the end of the push rod and connect it to your control horn of the elevator and the rudder. Don't forget to tighten your servo arm screws. Well, that's it for today. We put on the elevator, the rudder, the tail wheel, and we put in the servos. In part 3 of this building series, we're going to add the landing gear to the model. So don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you soon.